we were talking about was, my opinion is G2 should try and eliminate that Gwen in some way, either prioritize it or ban it away. You guys are talking about how, in terms of this mid lane matchup, what direction can we go in terms of what is the priority? Will the Ahri actually be something that Caps can get his hands on, something that we've seen dominate throughout this tournament? Will Faker still save that counter pick for something creative? Is that actually T1 to answer by limiting Caps' impact? Do they find a way to actually shut G2 down?
And it's so interesting. Caps and Faker have so much history now. You know, in the 11 games that they had played against each other, you know, they've been so back and forth. 13 now with the Rumble stage, including the game that we just saw. Faker ahead in CS at 15, 7 times.
Yeah.
Caps ahead 7 times, right? So it's now exactly 50-50 as far as who had that lead. Because of the way the Caps plays, though, often when Faker is ahead, he is very far ahead. This was also indicative of that. Caps, you know, much more active on the map traditionally when they are playing each other. You know, 74% KP in their games against each other. Faker down at 54. Caps 6 solo kills to Faker's 2, but the most Caps stat ever is that there's 3 ISO deaths for Faker, Caps 12. So he has 3 times the solo kills, but 4 times the ISO deaths, which just really encapsulates the guy.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like, the thing is, though, that last matchup, really difficult for Galio to play into,
so
like, at almost every stage of the game, right? The Tristana was such a great pick, so now, with the Ahri in his hands, this is likely to be a little bit more skill-based, one could say, as T1 look to answer here on the other side.
And when we look at Zeus' champ pool so far at this tournament, 8 games of Gwen, 3 games of GP, and then a bunch of other stuff. And I'm sure you can speak to how comfortable he is on a wide array of different champions, but it seems that G2's approach this time around is to actually limit his impact and his comfort towards the top side.
Well, it's really interesting to see both Gwen and GP banned out there by G2. I think that is quite atypical.
I actually like it. I like it a lot because honestly, Zeus is happy on the counter matchup, right?
Yeah, no, and it just makes me wonder, like, where is Broken Blade going to take us? Like, his most played had actually been the Vladimir, right? But he was using that as an answer to the Gwen. You know, the Gwen is his next most played. That is taken away. Then it's Sion and Gnar, as well as Ornn. Ornn has obviously been banned out. So is he comfortable actually looking towards something like a blind Sion here, trying to play more for the 5v5, especially if G2 want to play towards bot side and try to focus on getting Flacket ahead, which was clearly their game plan last time? It could make sense.
Well, Viego is going to be looked at here, of course. Viego, Ahri, an extraordinarily popular combination of mid and jungle, something that G2 could certainly play around. But if you look on the other side, these are the most famous champions for both of these players, right? Faker's LeBlanc needs no introduction.
Blind Sion.
And Ona's Lee Sin's fantastic. And this is exactly what you were talking about. The Sion comes in, and honestly, I really like this from G2. Go back to what worked instead of, you know, trying what was not necessarily a composition that they've had as much success with.
And it's the only thing that made sense with the double ban towards top for me, right? Because if you actually wanted to play the Gwen yourself and you're like, maybe I don't really like the GP matchup, you ban one or the other and you take one, right? In this case, banning out both those, which are really strong answers into tanks. And now we have to see, where does Zeus want to take us? Because after Gwen and GP, he's just played one game on a number of different champions, right? He's at the Rumble, the Aurelia, the Jax, the Jace, the Kennen. So, you know, he could do something like Kennen if they want to go for 5v5, you know, just try to have early push and then move towards the 5v5, look to play towards the bot side. If you want to go lane dominant, you're looking more at some of these atypical picks, things that are strong into tanks like a Fiora or even like Vayne top type counters.
And moving away from the top a bit, I want to focus in on the support, mainly because I think the Nautilus pick is very smart here. Not only because it is a very good champion into LeBlanc, typically, so it's a denial away from G2, but now as T1, you also have the freedom to remove a lot of the good answers into Nautilus as well. Renata is something that Targamas did actually play a lot of during playoffs. It was his go-to answer against things like the Nautilus in particular, and I thought that they would even look to remove the Leona as well, but for anyone that knows Targamas, he doesn't really play Leona. It's one of the few supports that he typically does not go towards. Now, does that mean that he can't play it? I would never make that assumption about him, but so far in his pro, at least in the LEC and here at MSI, it's something he's gone towards. So instead, they're going to remove the Kai'Sa, which, as I said, I was talking about last game, is one of Flacket's go-tos, and it has been his most comfortable champion here at MSI.
And it's so interesting, because with the Nautilus, I thought they were actually going to leave it up and try to force G2 to ban it, and then they could just go it on 4. But instead, banning it away, you know, taking the Xayah, they really are trying to target Flacket, you know, push him down. Flacket, you know, throughout the Rumble stage, you know, he had his struggles, right? On average, down 712 gold at 14. In G2 losses, down on average 1,300 gold in, you know, individually in that matchup. Was almost the entirety of G2's average deficit in their losses, has really struggled. On the other side, while Gumayusi, I think, hasn't performed in the team fights necessarily, his average is 1,128 ahead at 14. So it's a massive disparity between these two players. And I think that's partially why we saw G2 come in last game with the plan to really hardcore focus on getting Flacket ahead, because he's been amazing in team fights when he can get there on even terms.
No, exactly right. And I think a lot of those stats come down to how these two teams play, right? The stat at 15 minutes is certainly something that favors T1 exceptionally with how well they play around the early game before then sometimes dropping the ball a little bit when it comes to mid and late. The Braum is going to come through, though, to round out this composition. Certainly pretty stalwart there towards the bottom side. Is Carrier thinking about locking away the Zillion for Faker? Of course, Faker has played this one many, many times. You can say that about basically every champion.
Well, it would be, unless they're doing something really weird, because LeBlanc's already locked in, right? So we're looking for Zeus' answer into
the
Sion,
Zillion top lane.
Ooh,
that's Yone.
Okay, it's Yone.
Right.
So this is a Broken Blade pick, because this is something that he played a lot. And it was really popular right after Lethal Tempo got some buffs a while ago. People started playing a lot of Yone top. So this is going to be very interesting. If Yone gets ahead, it can be very difficult for some of the tank matchups because you do have high sustained DPS with Lethal Tempo, and you're going in towards Shield Bow, and you can start to shrug off a lot of their damage. But Yone, one of those really kind of high risk, high reward style champions, if he's put down also, can be pretty useless.
Well, I think one of the great thing to battle Yone into a tank matchup like this in particular is the expectation is G2 won't play around this lane, right? Normally the Sion gets left in isolation because not only is he a difficult champion to like bully out of lane, but also he's a very difficult champion to dive thanks to his passive and just what he does as a champion. So I would be surprised if Zeus really saw much attention, but when you have a mid jungle with this much agency on the side of G2, we'll see how much they impact the map, because my expectations are a lot of brawling in the mid jungle. LeBlanc Sin versus Ari Viego, that is spelling like whoever gets that advantage is going to look to try and snowball on the rest of the map.
And it's going to be really interesting because if T1 cannot put Broken Blade down, the only magic damage that T1 has drafted is LeBlanc, right? You know, that is a burst mid. Yeah. You're not going to have to build MR on the Sion. It's Lee Sin, Yone topside. If you can get through those first early levels, get towards Tabbies, get towards Frozen Heart, your mythic item, you're going to be really tough to actually take down.
Yeah, every single cloth armor is just going to feel so good for this Sion. Yeah, he's just going to have shirt after shirt after shirt, wearing so many. I hope he's playing Lumberjack Sion. It's not only my favorite skin.
Ooh.
There it is! All right.
That's a dub.
Hell yeah. That's shirt number
it's
one.
All tied up.
Shirt number one's on. We'll see how many more shirts he's going to place on after that. Here we are under the Rift for game number 2. G2 looking to reset against T1. Picking up game number 1, but I don't think that there is a team more tenacious than G2 when it comes to best of 5.
Now, we're all oldies on this desk. We've all been casting and following the scene for a while.
Yeah, a few years.
But there are many viewers that haven't. Okay? And so I want to bring them back to a fun fact about Faker in particular.
How fun. Out of
he
10.
does not use skins.
He doesn't.
Right? And this is one. Bear in mind, he has
did
3
once
of
or
them.
twice.
Yeah,
There was
once or
like
twice.
once or
There are
twice,
exceptions. But Faker does not use skins, right? And so
Carrier Splash level 1 though, so we're just going to hold it there for a moment. That is going to be the charm hitting, but it doesn't even really matter. Carrier going to get taken down low. The flash from Jankos, but the stun comes in. Carrier's still going to die, but it's going to take a little bit longer. There is the Winter's Bite just to guarantee the assist, and a few extras there for G2 as they answer back.
Absolute madness. T1 just coming out swinging here. Carrier flashing straight in on Caps, and
Hex
even
flash value though, right there.
That is crazy, man. You know, and they get the ignite off Faker, of course, but it's both flashes from mid and jungle. They're from G2. This is so worthwhile, I think, for T1.
We talked so much in the draft about this mid-jungle matchup being super important. Now you've gotten the flash out from Caps, so you can look to attack that at level 3 already. The moment that you have all the skills on Faker available, the moment the owner hits that level 3 mark, they can look to just shut down Caps.
Yep, and it's a very volatile matchup anyway, right, between LeBlanc and Ari. This one can certainly go either way, but let's have a look at it again. The absolute insanity here from Carrier flashing level 1.
Yeah, they're all around there and just coming out of fog, flashing in. There's no way Caps was expecting it, and then the chain to follow up. Owner connects through. Yes, Carrier is going to go down, but it's not just the flash off of Caps. It's a flash off of Jankos. It's first blood going on to Owner. The one kind of wrinkle there is that it is going to be an E start for LeBlanc, which is not what you want to have. So you're expecting the push to go towards Caps. I'm not sure what skill he actually leveled, like if he leveled Charm to try to defensively peel for himself or something like that. But assuming he had Q,
Yeah.
He should have the push, but of course he doesn't. So it may be that he actually skilled Charm. I didn't get to see.
He did, yeah.
He did.
He used the
That's
charm.
why Carrier
Yeah.
died, right?
So then, yeah, then that is kind of even on all accounts, and it's going to mean Faker has a significant advantage here. And if he could bounce the wave, have that coming out towards him, there is always that potential of killing off Caps.
We'll see how it's going to go. Even as the dust settles, as far as kills are concerned, T1 with a little bit extra on that first blood and everything else. But like you were talking about, Summoner Spell is very, very important in this situation. As Jankos, I mean, the Bramble Bat follow him for a while. The owner's going to get spotted out. Jankos also spotted out as the Sonic Wave will connect. So both of our junglers just checking one another. Gumayusi slowed down there as Targamas is going to stand behind one of the minions, but we don't know whether that's exactly what he wants. Great dredge line is going to come through there from Carrier, but immediately they switch over to Flackid, unable to actually get any kills, but still weakening the G2 bottom lane a lot.
Oh, that was so big, and now Owner coming in here. They are low without sums. They could look for a dive here. He was spotted on that ward you see at the top of your screen, so G2 know it, and Jankos is rushing down here. So they won't go for the dive here. Will just be the reset. If Owner bases too early, they should see Yanko. So they have all info now. So he's going to cancel the recall, make sure that they can fully crash this. But that was very close to going more towards G2 because they were one stack away from proccing the Braum passive. But Gumayusi, was able to get back, and it felt like G2 almost got a little bit over baited in because Gumayusi still had his cleanse. So even if you do proc that, yes, the trade starts going your way a bit more, but I don't think he was really ever in danger of going down.
Huge props to Carrier as well. I think he played that phenomenally, and obviously we sing his praises a lot as a support player, but in that situation, you could see that G2 was looking to posture, try and get the last hit off, and then the moment the Braum decided, okay, that's enough, I'm going to disengage, he immediately hooked him back in, forced him to flash. That also forced the heal out from Flackhead, but because he flashed away, Flackhead is now left isolated, so what does Carrier do? Immediately turns his attention onto the AD carry, manages to land the passive auto attack, and then all of a sudden this becomes a very advantageous 2v2 for T1. So huge props to Carrier because he is the one that's making this lane very difficult for G2.
Absolutely, and that's one of the things you always have to be so careful about when you're playing against Glacial Augment supports, right? Even if the initial part of the trade goes well for you, if they proc Glacial, you can't really get out very easily. You take so much damage on the retreat, so you have to be very confident that the trade will go well for you when you go in.
Yeah, well, things resetting just a little bit. If we have a look at the summoner spells, though, there are just not very many flashes available for G2. Just one there towards the top side. Jankos is going to have his very, very soon. And we'll see whether he's going to be able to affect some change here on this map, because on the other side, T1 have just lost carriers, but he's just got it back up. So that is a lot of playmaking potential. The charm is going to come through onto Faker here, but it's pretty even as far as the health trades, as Caps is trying to trade this one back.
The scary thing, though, with Ignite advantage being on Faker's side, you always have to worry about that for the potential all-in, especially when Faker hits 6 here. If Caps is getting chunked down, he's got to pay a lot of respect as the Electrocute proc comes back up. That plus Ignite plus 6 does mean there is kill threat. But Jankos here hovering around has not been spotted yet, I don't believe.
And still level 5 for Faker as well.
Do want to give a lot of credit to Jankos here because we talked about this mid-jungle matchup, and after Caps lost his flash, Jankos realized that he needed to hover mid, and we've been seeing him do it a lot. We saw it a lot at level 3, level 4, where he's just making sure that he's in the vicinity so that he can counter gank, make sure cover for Caps, and now that Caps' flash is back up, he's at level 6, he can now look to spend that attention elsewhere. But of course the downside of that is in the bot exchanges, he hasn't been able to offer that same level of support, so them dropping in that 2v2, it's become harder for Jankos to find opportunities on the map. But Carrier, looking for a hook.
He's going to be able to find the hook here onto Flackid. Let's see whether the door is going to be enough, as now they're going to get that stun down onto Targamas. The Unbreakable's not there, but Carrier doesn't have a lot of health bar. They are going to back this one out.
So that looked to me like Carrier was in the middle of his passive animation, and then he used the Q to kind of hide the direction of the Q.
The cancels the dark technology of the Nautilus.
And was able to land the hook on the Flackhead. So really cool setup there. We just keep singing Carrier's praises, but the setup was good, but the response this time around was stronger for G2. Targamas put himself in a great position. The wall mitigating the feathers from actually going behind Flackhead meant that that burst damage from Gumayusi just wasn't there. So G2 in the small exchange ended up coming out on top.
And it is such a strong interaction that Braum does have, because it's not just you're blocking up the autos. As you say, Vedi, the feathers can't get there behind Flackhead, so he can never get 3 in position to root as long as G2 continue to move back, which they did. Now you can see the early Warden's Mail here for Broken Blade. Just going to use the ulti as kind of a secondary TP. This is really how you play a lot of losing matchups as Sion, and it's one of the reasons he's so hard to put down alongside the passive that you talked about earlier, Vedius, where even if you do dive him, he's going to get a lot of that XP in the zombie form. Pick that up. So early Warden's Mail, going to be feeling pretty comfortable unless Faker does get up there. And so far, it's been really kind of mid lane focused. Both junglers just hovering around here, but neither team making any mistakes. So not much has really been gained from this pressure.
No, another charm is going to connect here, though, from Caps as Faker mimics his distortion to get a little bit more damage. Down carrier turns up. We're not going to get any stun. So Dust certainly settling, and T1 a slight advantage with 400 gold. Feels like absolutely nothing in this matchup. G2 have come back from far worse than this, so definitely a very different game to what we saw in game one. Kind of exactly what we were hoping for.
And I think the expectation was there'd be a lot more priority around this mid, but now the first Herald is alive. Have a look at the top lane. It is Zeus that has the push for now, but Flacket has joined the rest of his team. T1 leveraging this control ward very well to give themselves good position, but I think G2 is aware. Here comes Zeus.
Yeah, Sonic Wave not going to connect there from Owner, and that's going to mean that Zeus does back away.
Okay.
So G2 are just going to be able to take this, and I like it. T1 not actually opting in for the fight, but they might have one here as the Winter's Bite's going to go wide after Carrier hooks his way out. So T1, once again, going to be absolutely fine, although still feels like we're like a breath away from a fight.
I'm telling you that the skill shots just bend around. They just don't connect with T1 players. Carrier's sidesteps are so great to see. Gumayushi, though, doing exactly what Flacket did last game. Sure, Flacket helped his team secure the Herald, but it was at the cost of 2 plates. T1 not too upset about that, but getting a Herald away from T1 is a very rare thing to do.
Only the second time it's happened between the Rumble stage and now.
It's something that I'm surprised that T1 gave that up so willingly.
Yeah. I'm surprised they didn't just fight, even if they were going to lose, right? This is what we were talking about, and I was ready. I was so poised, you know, the play-by-play thing where we like, I'm ready to do the team fighting thing, but it just never happened. T1 baited us in with all of their very aggressive play, and there is a hook, and we're going to start a fight here on the bottom side. Jankos was spotted. Owner is here as well. Winter's Bite once again going to go wide as the Blade Coral is fantastic. The depth charge gets the flash out from Flacket, and Owner just kicks him through. Another stun's going to come down onto Targamas, but he'll be okay for now. But that was some pretty sexy Lee Sin play, I'm not going to lie.
That was clean from Owner. Flacket getting very aggressive. I think just thought he could get a maximum amount of damage out there and then kind of back it up. Broken Blade has ulti. There's potential here. This could be an all-in.
Yeah, Unbound Soul from Zeus, just playing around with all of that extra mobility. Get another knock-up with the Q. He just looks like he's having a great time. There's Zeus on the top side of the map.
Yep, just absolutely chilling up there. But as long as Broken Blade is defending the tower, that's really kind of more of the mark of how this matchup is going. You do expect to be down in farm a little bit when you're blinding a tank. But, you know, if he can continue defending that tower, feeling comfortable here, taps up towards that top side. Ooh, nice buffer.
Still gets the stun. And Zeus is going to flash this one out. So, going to have to use the flash. They're actually looking for the dive. Charm is going to miss, though, as Caps takes about all of the turret shots. But still, they are going to be okay. And Zeus still trying to chase this one out. The low health bars look tasty, but he doesn't have an ult anymore, and no flash.
And the problem is mid lane, right? Because mid lane, you're losing the wave there. Yanko's dropping Herald bot. Faker is going to move down towards bot, and Owner is running down here now. So G2 has got to get out of there.
TP, those TPs are up.
Another hook going to come through. Faker, yes, they know that he's here, but can they actually get out in time as Owner dives on in? They're trying to layer all that CC. The Lee Sin manages to get out, but the Heartbreaker's there to follow. It's a 1-for-1 as Flacket falls down, though, and now Faker is on the hunt, looking for this Braum as the chains connect onto Jankos, but he has another one and ults his way out. So a 1-for-1 here on the bottom side, but the Rift Herald did get a lot of value there. I believe it was 3 plates in the end, as now T1 looking to answer.
T1 can definitely dive this. They have the numbers advantage. They know where Sion is. They know where Caps is. And G2, they're going to disengage because they know the risk is very real. So T1, once again, coming out on top. Huge play from Zeus in the top side of the map. Yeah. Leveraging the minion wave as well, knowing that I think he saw the flash. I think we all saw the flash charms coming through, and he realized, okay, I've just got to get close enough to the minion wave to body block the charm, and then I'll be fine. And that's exactly what he was able to do. Meanwhile, T1's also actually going to get the tower off the back of this after they find another kill onto Flackhead. And the early game, very quickly, is now snowballing in the favor of T1 once more.
Yeah, this one was really close, you know, until these last couple of plays there. G2 go topside, double flash committed. Zeus gets out with his. They're going to look for a repeat gank here now, though. There is no ulti on Broken Blade, so it may just be a bit of coverage. But if Zeus gets aggressive, could be punished.
Yeah,
Not with Carry and Owner here, though.
He is going to move in. Decent little knock-up there, but Broken Blade pretty tanky right now, as Sion is wont to do. But another knock-up comes through. Immediately, the Unbound Soul does draw him back, but the Q is going to miss from Owner. And yeah, that's a decent emote timing there from Broken Blade, as he's going to be absolutely fine chilling under the turret.
Carriers just roam timings very clean, ahead of the play. G2 should be able to secure this, though, using the smite. And Targamas now a little bit later following up with the rest of his team. You can see a 4-man stack from G2, but once again, it was G2 that tried to force that play. Good charm here from Caps.
Yeah, fantastic stuff. Even the Everfrost stun going to come through there as well, as Electrocute's going to be the answer, but it's not enough to even out that trade. Nicely played there from Caps, catching Faker on the rotation. Carrier gonna have to dredge line his way out once again, but he is going to be absolutely fine. Just so much jostling, but as we have a look at the gold once again, it has moved to about 2.5k. As Faker's tidying up this mid lane. And Owner standing on a ward here, looking to try and defend. But this looks so much better for G2, with the fact that Caps is now on a champion with so much more agency at this stage of the game. He is feeling like he's ready to have far more of an impact.
But I think we're seeing some very clear discrepancies. Number one, the tier 1 bot lane is just outperforming G2's bot lane. In game 1, whoa, that was a very close hook. He read the sidestep from Caps, and Caps was forced to ultimate to get away from that. But Carrier is having a monster performance on this Nautilus, and he is a large part of what has been shutting down this G2 bot lane. Jankos has been investing so much resources into covering for Caps that the bot lane has kind of been left isolated in the 2v2, and T1 have leveraged that to punish. And then we saw that window where G2 tried to force something. They tried to force a play bot and top, and neither really went in their favor, which meant that T1 weathered the storm of the aggression while also finding an advantage off the back of it, securing the first tower of the game. So T1 continued to demonstrate why they are considered one of, if not the best early game team in the world. And look at who all that gold is on this time around. Gumayusi was the subject to violence in game 1, but now he is the recipient of plenty of gold.
I mean, he's the subject of violence this whole tournament, you know, finally getting himself some time in the sun. And yeah, it's just, this is one thing that we've been terrified about when it comes to T1 just in general, is the fact that they can just switch carries. There are so many teams that you look at and you're like, oh, they need, you know, for example, Uzi in the past. They need Uzi to get ahead before they can win, things like this. There have been so many star players, but it feels like T1, they can just choose one and they'll be the carry.
Well, and they've done that. I mean, you compare what Gumayusi did for T1 regionally, where he was, you know, up near 30% of the team's damage, and then you look at MSI, where he has been underperforming, you know, compared to those very lofty standards that he set for himself. You know, 24% of the team's gold at MSI, only 22% of the team's damage. But as you said, pick another carry, pick a card. And this time, Zeus, 22.5% of the team's gold, almost 30%, 29.8% of the team's damage from Zeus, who's been having an absolute standout performance.
It's just going to pop, and the turret might just go down as well. Faker is going to get executed. Oh, no. He did get killed by Caps. He killed the turret. That's what I thought the execution was. That was terrifying. But thankfully, it is Caps that's able to answer that one back. Cute little solo kill there for Faker, though, on the top side before he went down.
And smart to actually have the presence of mind to finish off the tower there. Realize that you're wrapped around on, you are going to go down. But catch here.
Yeah, it's going to be the knock-up onto Carrier. He does have a bit of a shield, and now the rest of the boys are going to turn up. He is going to fall, but can Broken Blade get himself out? He's going to flash, but the safeguard's going to get Owner in there as well. Nice knock-up from the Q from Broken Blade, and the stun comes down from Targamas, but yeah, there's 0 damage between these two as Owner's trying to fight this one out. Caps comes over, though. He's got a lot of damage himself, as now Gumayusi throws down the feathers. Blackett finds the Moonlight Vigil as Gumayusi just dives on top of Caps. Don't think that was the right move, as Caps is just going to put him down.
Owner getting way overconfident there. The initial play, he was totally fine, but then going back in again after surviving. Blackett arrives, Caps arrives, and Owner goes very deep, goes down, then Gumayusi blowing summoners and getting killed off. All of a sudden, G2 with some signs of life here.
Yeah, chains are going to connect from Faker, but Targamas has a door, and the door is very powerful, so he's going to be absolutely fine. As, yeah, this is some of the T1 plays that we were seeing
a little bit fast
in a few of those more, the more fast and loose games. Exactly, as Caps going to find a nice charm onto Zeus, looking to try and trade this one back, but he's just not doing enough damage. Caps just, the ult comes through. Zeus manages to find it. It's traded back in the end.
Oh, that was disgusting from Zeus. The fact that he was able to outplay that, get a 1-for-1, and I think he got the shutdown onto Caps. I'm pretty sure I saw 550 to 350 there. Wow, impressive play from him. Once again, demonstrating the mechanical prowess that this Tier 1 roster possesses.
I mean, it was just so smart. Caps was basically He throws out the Q, so he flashes behind him, so the Q is not going to hit him on the return damage there to get that trade kill, knowing Caps doesn't have any more ulti charges, doesn't have any more flash, doesn't have his flash up, so he can't actually reposition for that pullback on the Q. Really nicely done by Zeus, but still, it is a trade kill. Broken Blade pushing up here on that top side, getting very tanky, has the earlier Warden's Mail, has the Mythic completed. Let's watch this one more time.
So let's have a look at this. Caps knows that he has everything up. He uses the Everfrost to apply the slow, is able to land the charm, and at this point, you think, okay, he's waiting for the shield to disappear, and then he's going to land everything. But then Zeus preemptively goes back with his E, flash knockup, is able to get behind the return of the Q, and is able to find a big pick. Charm lands on the Faker.
Yeah, that's the Q flash. It's Faker going down extraordinarily low. Targamas now going to rotate over as well. Great Winter's Bite as Faker brings his clone over, flashes the wall. Targamas going to try and find the ulti kill, and he'll get it as he just autos Faker to finish him off. I love the emote
A little
too.
tip of the hat there to Faker.
That's a flash for Flash. They will get another kill onto Faker, but it's really important to recognize that while every now and then T1 are dying on side lanes, we've seen Faker now, that's the second time. The rest of T1 is getting so much more on the map because of the numbers that G2 are investing to be able to secure that kill. Look at the top wave. It's being stacked up, ready by Zeus for T1 to receive, and they can start threatening that tier 2. The mid towers already dropped in that last sequence of plays, and it's important to recognize that while G2 are finding picks, finding what seem to be favorable kills, T1 is constantly getting more control over the map. And even though it may sometimes seem that they're making mistakes, ultimately they're the benefactors of every play.
Yeah, I mean, I do think overall that's for sure true, but like, let's be honest, this isn't out of G2's hands by any means. It is.
I mean,
only
this is looking
2K
way better
advantage.
than the last game, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think they've done a good job of keeping it close, of getting some towers back up their own. You know, they knocked down top. We just saw Broken Blade knock down bot tower as well now. He's on Frozen Heart plus that Iceborne. That is a really tanky sign at this point. Not sure how much health he's gotten from the W passive, but when we click on him, we can actually see that as well. You know, he is going to be really tough to actually knock down. Of course, Gumayushi going to be the one tasked with doing that. Already has the LDR through, so does have a lot of that armor pen available. But, you know, beyond Gumayushi, as far as teamfight goes, they don't have a lot of damage to actually, you know, deal with this Scion. So I think if you can protect Blackhead from Faker, there's opportunities here. If you can avoid Zeus's knockup, if you can avoid Faker assassinating Blackhead, G2 can potentially win these fights.
I respect your guys' optimism. The thing that concerns me, which maybe won't even come to fruition right now, so I'll probably have to bring it up later because it's G2 that have set up around the Drake, but when you lose these 2 towers and you have a tier 1 tower of your own, contesting Drake can be very difficult because you can start pushing in bot, use the bot push to gain control of the jungle, which can then guarantee you a very deep mid push, which makes it very difficult for the opposition to contest Drake. But T1 have said, you know what, we don't care about this Drake, we're actually going to give it up in exchange for control around the top side and damage down onto this top tower. And you can see the vision investment as they're looking for Gumayushi.
Ulti going to come through from Broken Blade. Gumayushi going to try and get out with the Gale Force. Also uses the Feather Storm. It's a lot invested as now Jankos starting this dive. Decent sidestep onto the Heartbreaker, but there are too many buttons G2 has available, and the Xayah is going to fall down. Now T1 will find their way into the fight, but have they got here fast enough? As it's a really nice chain from Faker, but he will pop back. And G2, now can they get out of this one is the question. Oh, just dives into the knockup. The setup was just beautiful from Broken Blade as Faker goes down. Now T1 desperately trying to get out. Good flash from Carrier, but Owner's not going to be so lucky. Charming is Caps as he puts him back towards his outer turret there in the mid lane. So Owner is going to be alive, and yeah, maybe it's Baron on the table.
I think you start it. You just got flash off Owner. You know he has to go back to base. Okay, they're not going to go for it. Caps was moving up, so I thought they might. Instead, they're just going to take the smaller win here, clear out some vision, as T1 does have a lot, but that was huge for G2. Really smart stuff from Broken Blade, priming up the Q, expecting someone would be coming over that wall, whether it was Faker or Owner. There was a lot of ability to do it.
This was the first time this series we have seen T1 fall for the bait. The juicy kills on the side of G2 were a little too tempting, and Broken Blade, he may end up losing his life here, but look, Aphelios is lying in wait behind the corner. Zeus, are you overcommitting here? Broken Blade has the ultimate. Not going to invest it, though. But so far this game, we have seen a lot of the plays. Hang on.
Yeah, that's the ulti.
misses.
As Flacket
he's
actually
fine.
goes back inside and just says, no, I will leave.
Multiple times this series, we've seen G2 force a play and then T1 respond. And look at how many they're committing into getting a kill. This is something we've seen from G2 a lot this series of like, okay, we don't have much control over the map, so let's just try and force something. And typically, T1 would cross-map somewhere. They would trade somewhere else on the map, but there was nothing for them to trade for. So instead, they chase into a 4v5, knowing that Caps has TP, and they see a bunch of low health bars and think, we can get this kill, but it ends up falling short.
This is just
so
beautiful.
good.
He has the anticipation. I mean, someone is going to come over the wall, right? You know, it's Lee Sin, or it's LeBlanc, or it's even potentially Zeus there who had the ultimate available. So there was 3 options that someone could have come over. Now also, they're not quite able to finish off Owner. I think they would have gone for Baron for sure if they could have. Does sneak out, and G2 ends up saying, hey, we don't need to flip it, we don't need to go to Baron, still feeling relatively comfortable in their position in this game. You know, Caps is getting strong, Flacket's on 2 items, Broken Blade is only going to get more and more difficult for T1 to deal with. So I do think, yes, T1 are in the advantage, they have the run on the map, but G2 have a very straightforward composition here with 2 really beefy boys in the front line and some strong carries to protect.
And we've been highlighting it this whole game, right? Faker has been very over-aggressive on this LeBlanc, and the more he gets put behind, you already said it, he is all of their magic damage.
Yeah.
There is so much on his shoulders for trying to make sure that their damage profile isn't too skewed, and it will become more and more difficult the further behind he gets.
And he's on Void Staff Merc Treads, right? Like, he's not going. As solo AP, you generally want to see Sork Shoes and Shadow Flame, you know, full flat pen to try to one-shot Flacket. But, you know, there's 0 MR on Flacket, 0 MR on Caps, and we have a Void Staff and, you know, on Faker, which means his burst is just going to be lower. Sure, he's going to do higher damage to Sion, who's building some MR now, and to Braum, but, like, that's not who you want to hit, so who cares?
Yeah. Not T1 now trying to get this push on. It feels like things have slowed down just a little bit as Hex Splash comes in and I bite my tongue. Q connects as well, but it's Targamas. Remember, this guy's pretty tanky. They're still going to go for the fight. Buddy breaks his stopwatch. Faker now looks for the double distort and he'll pick it up. Stand beside me. Not going to be enough.
Targamas' first death of the game could mean a Baron for T1. Really good Hex Flash from Carrier, and the follow-up from T1 meant that G2 was caught off guard. Look, that's 3 members towards the bot side of the map. Broken Blade does have TP. But with the small vision, or small amount of vision rather, that G2 have, they recognize that, you know what? T1's not going to push anything, so that will just be a death. I think that was just the flash burn from Targamas, nothing really invested elsewhere from T1. But I think we're really starting to see some of these mid-game struggles for T1 where they're really good at cross-mapping, they're really good at trading objectives on the map, but when there aren't as many objectives to trade for, it seems that they struggle a little bit to know how they should respond to the aggression, and G2 are relentless in terms of stacking up as a 4-man and looking to try and go for a pick.
Yeah,
try and fight a 2 versus 4.
I mean, I think they were maybe expecting to get more advantages out of the side lanes, and they do have a big CS advantage, but once Sion hits a certain point, you just can't really pressure him much anymore as the Yone, and he's kind of reached that point. So, yes, they're getting a CS advantage, but they're not really knocking down towers. And
It's the Baron Force. This is the Baron Force.
Yeah, but it's on vision. They didn't even put down a single pink ward. They're sweeping out the vision now, but it's fully spotted. And T1 quickly going to pull off as they realize that they have been spotted. Gumayushi also skipped IE. He went for a rapid-fire third, which is very atypical.
Yeah.
He's got to be high DPS to be able to actually deal with this frontliner.
They're back on it.
But they're just back on it, and it feels like T1 are running out of ideas of how to advance the game
with
state.
Yone, they will be able to clear it very quickly. G2's jungler is nowhere near, but that is not going down fast enough.
Yep, some decent vision still
They
here
see
for
Carrier.
G2 as well as Carrier dives on in. That's a great double knock-up, and Caps is immediately taken down. Can there be an answer from G2 though? It's Zeus that gets the double knock-up,
up
but
to
Flacket
Flacket.
is still absolutely huge, and then find the flash from Gumayushi. Double kill for Faker in the end. It's Gumayushi still trying to fight Jankos. Moves back towards his teammates. Jankos goes golden, but I just don't think he's going to have the gap closed to lock down this Siren. Gumayushi going ballistic in the team fight. That's the ace from T1, and now they'll secure Baron.
What a flash from Gumayushi. The flash to redirect the feathers there onto Flacket. Absolutely erases him as T1 find the turn. Carrier and Faker deal with Caps, and Gumayushi puts Flacket 6 feet under. They grab the Baron here. T1 get that big advantage they've been looking for.
Great utilization of the Baron this time round. We've been criticizing them this tournament for forcing it and not being able to find a good fight, but they're able to create this flank with Carrier and Faker. And even though Carrier gets spotted, he doesn't care. Fully commits onto Caps. He gets one shot from the fight. And at this point, you think it's over, but then things start looking a little bit closer as Flackhead and Yankos get that return kill.
Absolutely, and then Flackhead here, they're going deep onto Gumayusi. You can see the Gale Force forward to get behind him for the Feather Pull, but then Gumayusi recognizes it, Flash E, pulls it through, erases him. Flackhead unable to flash in time to react to that. And it started to look close until you realize Faker is still full health, still hanging around. T1 playing that very well. The CC chain from Carrier, unreal. Flash over the wall, passive auto, into hook. The ulti was already buffered there. Everything is overlapped. Caps never got to play his character. There was nothing he could do from that initial engage from Carrier, and that makes it so Faker cannot possibly miss any of his skill shots. It's just a beautiful turn.
Yeah. We've said it before. We're going to keep saying it. Carrier's damn good at League of Legends.
He's pretty good.
He is. He hit the early game from his map movements in terms of being able to set up that play was really good, and huge props to T1 because, as we mentioned, their Baron has been their biggest criticism. We did see them struggle in terms of what to do in the mid game, but that is a clear evolution, a great utilization of the Baron to find a good team fight to get themselves in a winning position to go 2-0 up in this series.
Yeah, and it was also a fantastic moment for Gumayusi as well because we've been very critical of him throughout this whole tournament, and in that moment, that was about as well as you could have possibly played that, right? Never stopped autoing, was always making sure that he got the most damage down possible. So really good to see that he's really stepping up here when it counts most, trying to get T1 to match point in this series.
And it becomes so terrifying, you know, to look at a team like T1 and say, they've performed this well with someone, you know, not at their peak level, right? And if Gumayusi is reaching that level, T1 becomes incredibly frightening. They become that team that was promised, that undefeated monster coming out of the LCK that everyone had as favorites, you know, for this event. And everyone who was kind of shifted quite a lot on who they thought was favorites. At first it was T1, then it was G2, now it's RNG, and
well, Faker could get slowed down here. Oh, man. Caps still committing to it, but Faker's just going to answer back. Too many mates in that brush alongside him, and Caps goes too deep.
The locket from Carrier again. This man just does it so many times. He refuses to let this T1 lose.
Yankos going to get knocked up. That's a dredge line from Carrier as well. As Gumayusi's going to sidestep the ulti. Yankos going to get taken down as Broken Blade will find the Zyre in the back line. He's looking for the knock-up, but the Featherstorm is going to be there. The flash out from the Scion. He's going to be safe, but what's he going to do to stop his base from being torn to shreds as this mid inhibitor is going to go down? The top lane has been prepared earlier as well. As Zeus is going to tank up the turret for just a little while longer, but 2 inhibs. Click of a finger, and now it's a 12,000 gold lead from T1.
Yeah, Cap's about to respawn, so T1 getting out of there, and unfortunately it looks like there's no TP wards, so they can't even go for a long chase and have Caps join on the TP play. Faker went back to base to actually deal with Broken Blade, but Broken Blade, of course, teleported to join the team. So Faker just pushing out bot, Caps moving down here, and Caps very clearly pushing, trying to find an outplay, knowing his team is behind. That's why he's diving so deep for that attempted kill here onto Faker. He sees this shutdown. He sees the potential to find this play, finding the Everfrost slow. You know, the charm just not quite connecting. It actually gets blocked, and then there it is.
It's relevant.
Oh my It is the locket from Carrier saving Faker there. Perfect timing from him. And so close to connecting that charm, just barely. Faker moving his clone in the way to actually block that out. The slimmest of margins, and that would have been, you know, nearly 1,000 gold going G2's ways. It's 650, now 700 shutdown on Faker.
It would have slowed the whole game down as well. Removing that pressure from mid, eliminating that Baron. If Caps was able to find that, it's just, as we said, Carrier's damn good at League of Legends, and he makes that play happen once again. So huge props T1 in a commanding position right now. The lead is 10k gold. Well, they may be down in Dragons, but they don't care.
Yep, that is not this time for Broken Blade. Not going to be able to quite find it as T1 are going to slink into the darkness once again. There is an open inhibitor on the top side of the map. You can see that Zeus is pushing towards that one in the mid lane. Ona making his way down, and the 3 for T1. They try and break open this last remaining inhibitor turret on the bottom side. Faker dives in. Targamas puts up the door as Yankos not going to find the stun. Faker is so slippery on this champion. Is now the ulti for... No. It's just the Unbound Soul, just finding Q after Q. Is Zeus there, as the picture-in-picture shows us. In the meantime, though, we're looking for something. Decent stun, but the buffer of the dredge line is going to be there. Yet, Zeus was thinking about his opportunity, but T1 are just splitting them, and now Carrier dives on forward. Caps is going to go gold, and his Broken Blade's just trying to keep them busy, but it's just not going to do anything. Oh my goodness, Ono picks up a kill with his Gore Drinker of all things, and now, yeah, that's the direction you probably want to go, as T1 are looking to take down these Nexus turrets in game number 2, and things in the Rumble stage looked pretty close, but this series is starting to definitely look the opposite of that, as now onto the fountain goes T1. They'll take down the Nexus. This isn't looking close, gentlemen.
T1 once again proved their growth and evolution in such a short space of time. They are very dominant in the early game, and we saw some of their mid-game weaknesses in terms of being able to cross-match, sometimes getting a little bit too caught up in the fight, but they very quickly adjusted, they reset themselves, and they played that Baron beautifully into a very quick execution to shut down G2. T1 continue to improve, continue to get better, and they're looking to secure this 3-0 and get their much-wanted revenge against G2.
And now it is T1 and it is Faker, 1 game away from his first international finals since